Tonight on Canyons News, we go into detail on some mental health issues that went on the rise during the pandemic. We've got local sports updates, and we take a moment to appreciate Native American culture. Canyons News starts now.
With news from across the Santa Clarita Valley, this is Canyons News.
Hello and good evening. This is Canyons News and I'm Sydney Sweet. According to the CDC, a record number of Americans have died from drug overdoses in the past year. Lauren Hanna shows us how a local addiction expert is working to slow the tide.
Today is different than it's ever been.
The numbers tell the story. 93,000 people have fatally overdosed nationally in the past 12 months.
If we don't start educating people about what's going on with drugs today, we're going to lose a lot more. These numbers are going to go up and up and up.
And they're going up due to drugs laced with a deadly amount of fentanyl.
COVID came into the picture and everything else went to the back burner.
People who were self-medicating with illicit drugs slipped further into isolation.
The first time I tried heroin, I knew it was bad, but I didn't know to the extent.
Because they're going to kill you.
Dominic was on his way to stardom when a friend offered him black tar heroin. Today, he gambles with death by using counterfeit drugs.
And I knew it was bad, but I saw how intoxicated he was, and I wanted to be just that, intoxicated.
It's that high he's trying to leave behind. He's working with Carrie to change his life.
Once people start using and experimenting with drugs, man, if it's more than just an experiment, they're in trouble. Because emotionally and physically, they're going to get addicted.
It's that reason Dominic's talking about his feelings.
Now that I'm sober, I could be in my dad's shoes and realize how traumatizing that is, and I feel bad for it.
By dealing with life's troubles, the drug's grip loosens.
You've been through a lot, haven't you?
Carrie hopes that by using this method, he can keep Dominic off the list of 93,000.
There is no drugs out there today that's not addictive. You want your kids using drugs like that? Not me.
Reporting for Canyons News, I'm Lauren Hanna.
Many believe mental health is just as, if not more important than its physical counterpart, but it is often overlooked by students. Mark O'Brien tells us more on how COC works to solve this issue.
The life of a student is no simple task.
Us emphasizing those kinds of issues and mental health and stress just related to college have been really important.
That was the voice of Larry Schallert, a mental health advisor here at COC. He, of all people, knows the amount that is on a college student's plate and how hard it can be to balance all those responsibilities while at the same time prioritizing mental health.
And if they use the mental health resources here, the personal counseling, that can really help them with their quality of life, their wellness, but also their studies.
Along with being a full-time student, some have to face other obstacles outside of class, like work or athletics, but others may have to face a whole lot more.
But students are coming to us with issues around domestic violence and sexual assault in their history, maybe child abuse in their history, so it interferes with their ability to do well in school.
The lasting effects of the pandemic have been challenging for Larry and other COC health advisors to lend a helping hand. On a busy campus, stopping by the Health and Wellness Center to talk to somebody was easy. But on an empty one, it makes it that much more difficult.
Because we really are challenged. We're doing, since COVID, for the last year and a half, we've been doing a lot of Zoom counseling. We've found that we can communicate with students through, email, through Instagram, through social media, that sort of thing. We can do a lot of online events with your house, your counselor.
And although many things have changed because of the pandemic, one thing that has remained the same is COC's support of its students.
There's a stigma to having a mental health problem. There's a stigma to getting into counseling. We want you to get through that, and we want you to be able to reach out, because everybody here is stressed, and it's okay to not be okay.
For Canyons News, I am Mark O'Brien.
I heard some teens ran off with a lot of stuff from a local shopping center in Valencia. Lauren, can you tell us more about that?
Thanks, Sid. 2 teens suspected of burglary were detained by law enforcement Monday evening. It all unfolded in Valencia near the mall when a sheriff's sergeant pursued the suspects on foot. Witnesses said the teens burglarized a store in the White Oaks shopping center. The suspects were detained a short time later at the Westfield Town Center. The underage girls are suspected of stealing merchandise worth over $950. Governor Newsom returned to public view Tuesday after disappearing for nearly 2 weeks. Newsom abruptly canceled a trip to Scotland for a climate summit and wasn't seen for 13 days. He reappeared at the California Economic Summit in Monterey on Tuesday. There may be legal trouble following the events of last Friday's Astroworld tragedy. The ill-fated concert left 8 people dead and significantly more in critical condition, with one person as young as 9. As of Tuesday, 3 separate lawsuits have been filed against rapper Travis Scott, Drake, and the organizers of the event. The suits include allegations of negligence and inciting the crowd. And that's what's trending. I'm Lauren Hanna. For more stories in and around the Santa Clarita Valley, you can check us out at canyonsnews.com. And back to you, Sydney.
Thanks so much, Lauren. The city of Santa Clarita recently cut the ribbon on a new community center in Santa Clarita after 3 years in the making. Kate Kostick brings more.
3, 2.
Thanks, Sid.
3, 2, 1.
Canyon Country Community Center opened its doors last week to the individuals who call this valley home. But the center is not just a place to gather. It's a place to engage with one another within the neighborhood.
The community center building itself will hold classes, activities, programs for youth and adults, as well as special community events, workshops that offer opportunities for personal and professional growth.
For residents, it's important to see this coming, especially when it's needed at a key time.
It makes me feel really good because this community, we have a lot of people and a lot of people need to interact, especially because of COVID. So this brings everybody together. It gives everybody an option to come together, be a family, and it really just unites us all as a whole and as a community.
While the community center focuses on our area as a whole, it's apparent that its main focus is on the youth of our valley.
Areas for kids to meet can be found throughout, where they can come to play, engage, and be together. But it goes beyond that.
It's because of the values that we instill in our kids and the activities that we have for our communities, but community centers like this keep our kids off of the streets doing meaningful things, allow our seniors to enjoy their retirement and continue to contribute to our community, and that's what makes us great here.
For community leaders and residents alike, the measure of togetherness that this center will bring is crucial for all stages of life.
And this is going to open doors so that we can engage with our neighbors in a fun manner. We can bridge the gap between the generations in this valley and continue our growth in the community, in the small town type of community that we live in.
With all the center has to offer, unity is sure to be seen in the years to come.
While people were forced to stay home at the peak of the pandemic,
creates possibilities.
It's a gateway to opportunities.
A place where students learn they can believe in themselves.
Behind every possibility at College of the Canyons are the people.
Together we focus on achieving success, one student at a time.
That focus is a reflection of what we value.
It defines who we are.
We are. We are.
We are College of the Canyons.
Welcome back. While people were forced to stay at home at the peak of the pandemic, it didn't stop the city of Santa Clarita from opening a host of new facilities and parks throughout the region. Matt Frieda tells us more from the Santa Clarita State of the City event and all of the new developments popping up around town.
The effects from the COVID-19 pandemic has been felt globally, shutting down businesses and putting a halt to a normal way of life. But the city of Santa Clarita hasn't let the virus slow it down. Last week, the city held its State of the City All-Star event, hosted at none other than Santa Clarita Valley's brand new community center.
This is not a community center just for kids. This is for adults, and most importantly, this is very senior friendly.
The new state-of-the-art structure, located on Sierra Canyon Highway, features a basketball court and will offer a range of classes, including in fitness and technology.
I live right up the street, so I would take the bus and I would see the construction, and it was really neat to see the started from nothing. I might shoot videos here, maybe do something outside with the field. A lot of cool stuff.
But this building on the screen is just one of the many accomplishments that the city is proud of.
This year, the city opened a new sheriff's station. The restoration of the Cube ice hockey rink was completed. Developers broke ground on a new Vista Canyon Metrolink station, and multiple new public parks have been added to a rapidly growing city.
They're waiting in line to get into Santa Clarita, to get into housing in Santa Clarita. We still have to plan for that, even in our city, because we have the services that they're going to need.
While the city builds toward the future, they continue to acknowledge their traditions of the past. The Historical Society continues its work on Old Town Newhall, including the preservation of multiple structures, as well as the Saugus train station, which is being restored to its original state.
And yes, we are building a better community. All those things are what we're all about.
Despite the hurdles the pandemic presented, the accomplishments of the city are now being used and enjoyed by the public and will be for generations to come.
Give yourself a hand.
With Canyons News, I'm Matthew Frieda.
Well, a lot of new things are happening here in Santa Clarita. Some residents are not happy about all of them. Kate Kostick is at City Hall tonight.
Thanks, Sid. I'm here at City Hall in Valencia, where residents are gathering to have their voices heard on a controversial plan.
But really, we're just here to listen to folks. So thank you again for being here. We really appreciate it.
The County of Los Angeles is planning to place its juvenile prison population at 2 camps in Saugus. This is all part of a plan to realign inmates from the state's custody to its 58 counties in the coming year.
On behalf of Santa Clarita City Council, I would like to express our continued concerns with regard to the proposed use of Camp Scott and oppose that Camp Scott serves serious juvenile offenders.
The camps are both located on Bouquet Canyon Road near Shadow Valley Lane in the city of Santa Clarita. Homeowners near the camps voiced their concerns for safety.
It's a training camp for gangs. So what we're saying is that say no to MS-13 training camp in Bouquet Canyon. Thank you.
Those in support of the plan say it's one step closer to fairness within the prison system.
This is our responsibility. These are kids that never had a first chance. I hear their stories and abuse that they've gone through, and I'm saddened by what I hear, not in my backyard. When I look up there and it says, "In God we trust," God also says, "Judge not unless ye be judged first."
Now it remains to be decided if the county will go through with the plan. Officials will go through tonight's testimonies before making a final decision. Reporting from City Hall, I'm Cade Kostick.
The winter months are tough for some families, but one Santa Clarita's charity aims to alleviate some of the struggle. I visited the food pantry to learn more. Holidays are quickly approaching and spirits are high at the Santa Clarita Food Pantry. The mood is light, but unfortunately, so are the donations.
It's just been a battle since the pandemic happened.
The goal of the food pantry is a noble one.
Here at Santa Clarita Valley Food Pantry, we try to alleviate hunger throughout our community with donations from the community as well as some of our partners.
James Espinoza feels that every family deserves the means to celebrate.
Everyone wants to have that joyous holiday spirit at home, and we try to help them in any way we can.
Unfortunately, the lack of meats and canned goods from donors and grocery stores creates a problem for the food pantry. Supply chain issues are partly to blame for the shortage. Espinoza hopes that more people will get involved out of more than just obligation.
I think people should donate if it's in their heart. I mean, we've all struggled at some point in life, and we've all needed someone to support us. And what better way to support your neighbors by donating here at the food pantry?
If you would like to donate to the food pantry, they are most in need of Thanksgiving items, such as turkey and ham and canned goods. And they have a 24-hour drop box right outside the building. Reporting for Canyons News, I'm Sydney Sweet. You may have noticed public wall art around town. This is due in part to the Art Tree Community Art Center. Find out how they plan to bring art education back to the Santa Clarita Valley. Reporter Claudia Canchola has more.
Art is an expression of creative skill and imagination. With this industry declining more and more each year, art education continues to face serious budget cuts and funding throughout public schools in the U.S. Specializing in art education, the Art Tree Community Art Center hopes to change this by bringing visual arts back to the Santa Clarita Valley.
We are not just about doing classes, we are about bringing art to the community, so that's why it is a nonprofit. We want to bring art to everyone.
The Art Tree Community Art Center offers weekly classes and monthly free open studios to people of all ages.
The overall goal, I would say, of Art Tree is just to foster creativity and allow people to work on art.
Through the years, the center has collaborated with local community centers as well as the community in creating public art pieces. While the Art Tree Community Art Center has taught students an appreciation for art, teachers have also learned an equally important lesson.
Our paths join for a little bit, and then we have that beautiful interaction, connection through the arts.
Although the center hopes to add more courses in the future, it is clear that existing classes have already left a lasting impression with adults, children, and families.
The kids, one of them said she was going to donate all of her birthday money for Art Tree because it's such a wonderful place and she loves coming here. And it's just so wonderful to have them come and progress and make art and continue to have that in their lives.
From Canyons News, I'm Claudia Canchola.
It's an ancient Greek tragedy worthy of making the nightly news. The Antigone project takes the stage next week in the Black Box Theater. Jeremy Thompson unmasks the cast of COC's latest production.
The story has been told for thousands of years, but for the cast of Antigone, the last two felt the longest.
Enter.
So this is my first play at COC.
Okay.
Because I'm lying. It was definitely a little bit intimidating walking into a cast full of people that I had no clue who any of them were, but I swear within like a day or two we all just clicked and now we're like a little tiny family, and it's just like, I don't know, it just feels so great to be back after the long time that it's been.
After 2 years acting over Zoom, returning to in-person rehearsal has been a dramatic shift.
Like zero human contact to, hey, let's go sit in a room with 15 strangers and feel the most intense of human emotions as quickly as possible. Like, let me feel the full breadth of human sorrow as I hold my son's corpse in my hands.
Hapless mother, hapless son!
It's just a very strange experience, and I wouldn't change it for the world because it's been amazing.
Equally amazing for director David Steers, who has watched the cast grow as an ensemble.
In the last couple of rehearsals, there have been wonderful moments that both the actor and people watching are saying, there it is. That's the moment.
Why, all your speech this day is spent for her!
For you! And me too!
As an acting teacher, it's beautiful to watch artists grow into their art.
If that growth was stunted performing online, the cast is making up for it heading into next week's opening night.
There's nothing that compares to being in a live theater setting, whether it's performing or watching. You can see the same show 100 times, and every time the show's going to be different. Live theater is a forever changing experience.
For this production, one change is adding an audience. Tickets are available through the theater department.
I think it's going to be something wonderful.
For Canyons News, I'm Jeremy Thompson.
Okay, go if you must. I still love you.
Antigone runs next Thursday through Saturday, the 18th through the 20th. Tickets are free, but seating is limited. Email theater@canyons.edu to make a reservation. It was a packed couple weeks for our COC sports teams, so now let's take it over to Mark Monroy, who has the play-by-play.
Thanks, Sid. COC men's basketball returned last Thursday after a year and a half of being shut down due to the coronavirus. The inexperience of COC men's basketball team was evident as they turned the ball over 4 times in the first 3 minutes of the first half, letting Oxford gain the upper hand early. COC would come back thanks to Cameron McRae's 15 points and 3 three-pointers. Andrew Henderson focused on attacking the basket, adding 9 points and 10 rebounds. The Cougars took the lead at the half, up 55-50. In the second half, the Cougars continued to dominate in the paint and out-rebound the Condors. COC outscored Oxnard 50-30 in points in the paint. COC won the game 102-82. After the game, Coach Fisher gave his thoughts on how it felt being back after a year and a half.
It was an amazing event. I didn't really sleep well last night. I was excited. 621 days between games. I think all of our players, all freshmen, had nervous jitters.
The COC women's soccer team played this past weekend against East LA in a potential division clinching game and with more than just win or loss on the mind. The Cougars would quickly go up 1-0 after the East LA goalkeeper tried to pass back to one of her defenders, but striker Annalise Rapp is there to knock the goal in. COC would quickly double the advantage after an East LA defender kicked in an own goal. 15 minutes in, the Cougars just relentless as Rapp scored her second goal of the game and her 7th of the season. It's 3-0 COC. Just 5 minutes later, another score as Rebecca Brooks would break the defense apart using her speed to make it 4-0. Sarah Allen would make it 6-0 at the half after scoring a wonderful strike from outside the box. This would be Allen's 5th goal of the season from the midfield position. The Cougars go on to trounce East LA 7-0 as COC becomes division champs and will be heading to the playoffs for the 10th straight year. This will also be Coach Justin London's 10th playoff appearance in 13 seasons as head coach.
So that's what we let them know, enjoy it over the weekend. On Monday, we're right back at it. We have a big game against Citrus, and, they're a really strong team, and so that's a good preparation game for us heading into playoffs because we know once we get into playoffs, it's all good teams, and we need to be ready.
And the big win came on a night. COC celebrated a sophomore class that battled through a pandemic and 19 months of isolation, and now gets to play at least one more game in a Cougar uniform.
This season has been really awesome. I'm glad I chose to come here instead of going to a closer community college because I feel like this one I was able to meet new people and stuff.
I just think this season was great. Last season I didn't get to play because of the pandemic, but I was really happy with how this season went.
Reporting for Canyons News, I'm Mark Monroy. After taking the Foothill League title for 2 straight years, the Saugus High School football team was ready to start their postseason run in the CIF playoffs. Saugus hosted Rancho Cucamonga last Friday, both teams playing for a chance to move on and keep their playoff hopes alive. On Rancho Cucamonga's first offensive possession, quarterback Xavier Washington escaped some pressure and hit wideout Julian Landy for the first touchdown of the game. After some struggles from the Centurion offense, the defense stepped up and made a play. Late in the second quarter, defensive back Cody Collier picked off Washington to give Saugus the ball with a short field. Moments later, Jacob Viger bounced off a run outside for a gain of 18 yards. Late in the third quarter, Sebastian Dallaire scored the only Centurion touchdown of the night. On the next drive, Washington escaped some pressure in the pocket and ran it himself for a large gain. With 10 minutes to go in the fourth, Washington sealed the game with a pass to wideout Jonah Dawson for a touchdown, putting Rancho Cucamonga up 21-7. The Centurions' defense didn't give up. Late in the fourth quarter, Vinny Gallagher had a nice pass breakup to prevent another touchdown from Rancho Cucamonga. After a disappointing game, Saugus lost 21-7 and has shifted its focus to next year's season. That's it for local sports. Let's toss it back to Sid in the studio.
Thanks, Mark. November is Native American Heritage Month, celebrating the culture of Indigenous Americans. I visited Main Street for a very special 10 by 10. The Main in New Hall is a city-run facility that puts on community events just about once a week. In honor of Native American Heritage Month, the theater has come together to recognize and celebrate the indigenous cultures of America. Los Angeles is home to the largest Native American population in the United States. And Alan Salazar Puchik-Yayak feels the community is underrepresented in most aspects of society.
I learned nothing about my tribe while I was in school.
Alan is a member of the Fernandino Tataviam tribe, the original people who settled in what we now know as San Fernando in Santa Clarita. He is dedicated to telling the stories that he feels need to be told about his heritage, a heritage that was almost completely lost.
There's been anthropologists and archaeologists that have written papers about the Tataviam, and they use phrases like the forgotten tribe.
During the pandemic, Alan wrote a children's book, Tata the Tataviam Tauhi, combining his love of storytelling and reviving his culture in the process. Sharing stories is vital to Native American culture, and writing is not the only way to tell them. Wolf McMasters tells his stories in motion.
The movements that we do is to imitate the movement of the grass that they would clear.
Grass dance is a tradition passed down through generations, and he hopes to continue that legacy.
Keep the traditions alive. You know, we're the next generation coming up, and after us will be our kids. So trying to keep our ceremonies and traditions and honoring our ancestors that came before us, it's really trying to make them proud.
Although keeping up traditions is very important to Native culture, so too is it important to adapt and change.
In order for a culture to really survive, they have to sing new songs, they have to tell new stories.
Through language, art, music, and dance, the culture of Indigenous Americans will always be alive and well. Reporting for Canyons News, I'm Sydney Sweet. That does it for this edition of Canyons News. I'm Sydney Sweet, and remember, you can catch us on the web and at canyonsnews.com. You can also send us news tips and story ideas to our Twitter handle at @COC_Canyons News, and follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Have a good night, everybody.